All right. Let's check it here. They saying no sound. Speaker, sound output. No sound. All right. Just a moment. All right. Most High in Christ. There's sound now. Barakatah Yahweh Yahweh Shtatuah. Most High in Christ. All right. Here we go. Let's get it on. All right. All right. So, like, it's very important to know what love is. All right. We're going to go to the scripture, of course, describing what love is, because love can be very confusing. You understand? Of course, coming out of captivity, coming out of being in the world, coming out of Christianity, understanding biblical concepts. It takes time to understand and realize. It takes time to be raised, you understand, coming out of the world's understanding of what love is. All right. So we're going to go into that. All right. So we're going to start with 1 John chapter 5 and verse 3. You understand? 1 John chapter, as a matter of fact, we want to start with 5 and 3. This is the commandment of God. Love. This is the love of God. Right. I got it. Okay. 1 John chapter 5 and verse 3. All right. For this is the love of God. This is what, when they say God is love, when you hear that in the scriptures, we're going to get that tonight. Love is not what you think. Love is not what I want it to be. It's not what you want it to be. It's not our own personal definitions. You understand? And that causes a lot of problems. Everyone having their own definition of what they think love is. You can't have a nation if everybody has their own separate belief system that's individual and unique to them. You can't have unity that way. You can have 500 people, thousands of people march together and say the same thing. But if everybody has a different belief, you can never have unity. And that's what we have in the Black, Hispanic, and Native American community. We have a bunch of different definitions. The only important thing is, what does God say his definition of love is? What did God say love is? All right. So now we're going to pull some scriptures. All right. Let me see. Anytime we love one another, dwellings, love is perfected. Bear with me just a moment. Perfect. Perfect. That's perfect love. Start off here. There we go. That's what I want. 1 John 4 and 8. All right. So 1 John 5 and 3, it says, for this is the love of God. This is what it means when you see love. This is the love of God. This is what God says love is. All right. That we keep his commandments. Keeping his law, statutes, and commandments. That's what love is according to God. Now, if you do not know the Most High's law, statutes, and commandments, then you cannot have love. And that has caused us a great deal of pain, a great deal of suffering over the years, that if we don't know what the Most High say love is. Because our definition of love that we've had, that we've lived by, that we based our lives on, and that we've learned about, our definition has not been based in what the Lord said. It's been based in Christianity. And Christianity does not teach our people to have the love of God. Christianity makes us too weak to love God. Christianity makes us too weak, too emotional to have love. You understand? And it might sound like a foreign, it might sound a little confusing, but I'm going to get into it tonight. All right? Because what happened on that dock in Alabama, that was the love of God. You understand? That was love right there. What happened in Alabama, when that mob of oppressors were lynching that black man. They were lynching that brother. That brother was 64 years old. They in Alabama. Alabama, like most of the South, has a history of mobs of oppressors, men and women, ganging up, attacking, and unaliving black men and women and children. You understand? And they were going to unalive that brother. They were trying to kill him. He's on the ground. They're choking him. They're kicking him, not because he's some sort of threat, because this is the narrative that our oppressor likes to push, that they're overly aggressive towards blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans because you are some sort of threat to them. The reality is, this is because they just feel they have the power to do so. You understand? The scriptures say his strength shall stand in his power. All right? Whatever he has the power to do, that's what our oppressor will do. You understand? Like the scriptures say in Second Ezra's, his strength, whatever his law, the law is going to be whatever he's strong enough to do. And brothers and sisters rallied together and showed tremendous love and courage. You understand? You cannot have love and be a coward. You cannot have love and not have courage and bravery. You understand? Like those two things conflict with each other, and it is the fault of the Christian church that has bred into us just to live another day, go along to get along, shuck and jive, keep your head down. Like Christianity has bred that demon in us that is not the spirit of God. You understand? Like that spirit that the Christian church puts on blacks and Hispanics and Native Americans, that is an ungodly, satanic, evil spirit. You understand? Dylan Roof went into a church of people who, if you would have asked them, they would have said they love God, they have the love of God. But the problem is, Christianity made them too weak to have God's love. You understand? It made them too weak. And Christianity has been responsible for the weakening generation after generation, decade after decade, century after century, for the weakening of blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans. You understand? But grace and mercy from the Most High has allowed brothers and sisters to wake up, to come into the truth, to turn back their life, to serve the Most High. You understand? By giving us the knowledge of the truth that Commander Journey Yohana held on to since 1969, even though many men fell weak and left the truth and created their own religions for their own personal gain that do not teach blacks and Hispanics to have love for one another. That's why those purple people, you understand, those sodomites in that purple church, that's why they were able to punk and harass. They thought they could travel and threaten brothers' lives and try to get brothers and sisters killed, because they have a Christian spirit on them that is not the spirit of God, that does not have the love of the Most High. But they had it down there on that dock. You understand? The Lord said, this is the love of God, that we keep his commandments. Keeping the Most High's laws, statutes, and commandments is directly tied to the love of the Most High, and it's tied to the strength that comes from having the Most High on your side. Much of the confusion about life and things comes from our people just assuming that God is on our side, when really we've not been taught about the Most High. We haven't been taught about his high holy days, about how he looks, what he expects, what his kingdom is, who his people are, who his son was, what he wants us to do, everything about how God shaped life for us as a people. We've not been taught this. So much about our God, because we know about the oppressor's God. We know about the Arab's God being a Muslim. We know about the white man's God being a democratic, you understand, being a Christian. We know about everybody else's culture and into their religions and their beliefs, and getting high and dreadlocks and, you understand, worshiping the sun and the crystals and the moon and the fertility goddesses. We know about all of those, but we don't know about our power. And that is where we get the strength from our God that we have been lacking, you understand. But the Spirit of the Lord is pouring out on brothers and sisters, because our people are turning back to the Most High and getting in the truth to serve the God. You understand? So we got a number of questions here. All right. Let's get to these questions first. All right. What do we got? Y'all coming with the questions now. Most High in Christ. Okay. Who's got this first question up here? We got check-ins. Everybody make sure you hit that like button. Hit that like button. Okay. A breakdown of Philippians. Somebody reading the book of Philippians. Okay. All right. Y'all doing reading. Okay. Philippians 3 and 19. I can count all the times I broke down something in Philippians. It's not often. Let's get Philippians 3 and 19. Okay. Of course, y'all got questions. Now is the time to ask them. Put them into the messenger. Philippians 3 and 19. Let's get it. Just a scripture breakdown on Philippians 3 and 19. All right. Philippians chapter 3, verse 19. Okay. So again, we hear Philippians 3 and 19. We're in the middle of a sentence. We're in the middle of a thought. Again, the Bible is compiled together as books, but it was not written as a book. This is a letter that, again, Paul is writing to another school that he set up in Philippi. I want to make sure that the cross of Christ is the suffering that Christ endured and dying for us to have a second time to rule the earth. Okay, so let's get that. Philippians chapter 3 and verse 19, whose end is destruction, whose God is their belly, and whose glory is in their shame, who mind earthly things. Okay, are you talking about Philemon or Philippians? 3 and 18. Okay, Salakia. Because it said 19 here. Salakia, 3 and 18. All right. Verse 18, for many walk, of whom I have told you often, and now tell you even weeping, they are enemies of the cross of Christ. So we're gonna have to start up because again, he's in the middle of his thought. They're compiled as verses in books, but he didn't write verses in books. He wrote a letter. You understand? So we got to get up to see what he's talking about. So now let's start at about verse 14. So this is the brother's writing a letter to the school in Philippi, the book of Philippians. You understand? Verse 14. We chapter 3, verse 14. I press toward the mark for the prize of the high calling of the power in Christ Yahushua, or Mashiach Yahushua, or as you would read it in English, in Christ Jesus. Just as a sidebar, make sure that everybody is reading a King James Bible, King James Version, King James translation, not a new King James. That's garbage. King James died hundreds of years ago. There is no new King James. Not an NIV, not a world standard, an English standard. You have to learn what the these, the thine, the this, the thithers, the those, the there, the thereof. You have to learn what that means. There is no modern, you understand, of the Bible. The white man has changed what the words mean many, many times over. You have to learn to speak Old English. That's why we have these classes, all right? You got to learn what those words mean. They're very important. And it's another language almost. And because as a people, blacks and Hispanics barely speak the language that we speak from our oppressor, they know for sure we will not learn the other languages, or they assume that we will not learn the other languages like what the Bible is written in Hebrew. That's why we teach Hebrew. You understand? We won't learn the Old English. That's why we have the Zondervan's Bible Dictionary to get the definitions of what the words were when they were written, not the definition of it is now, like love, like charity, like ruddy, like heaven, like hell, like grace, like mercy, like judgment. You understand? Those things are very important to learn. That's why we teach those here in the class. No sweat, sis. No sweat. All right. How you on the ball? So now, this is he's talking, press towards the mark. The mark of the prize of the high calling is being a priest of the Lord. The purpose is to rebuild the nation. That is the goal for serving the Most High. Everything about life is building your nation. Everything. It's why you marry who you marry. It's why you don't marry who you don't marry. You understand? It's why you don't sell drugs. It's why you don't have sex with another brother's woman. It's why you don't abort your babies if you're a sister. It's why you cannot leave your man if you are a woman. It's why you don't murder your brother. It's why you don't go around being a robber and a liar and a thief and a criminal, because these things destroy the reputation of your people and create instability in your nation, amongst your people. You understand? Like everything about life is your nation. To our oppressor, everything in his life is about the dominance of his people. His holidays, his God, his flag, his forefathers. He's not throwing away his cultures. Same thing to the Arabs, the Asians, the East Indians. That's why they're sending destroyers across the Middle East and surrounding China and Taiwan. They want that land back in Taiwan. You understand? Everybody is fighting for their heritage. And our people have to get accustomed to getting back to our heritage, which is the only place to learn is here in the ISUPK. You understand? So now, that's the prize of the high calling is rulership of the planet Earth. That is what we are fighting for. The governing body of the nation of Israel is the Israelite School of Universal Practical Knowledge under commanding General Yohanan. All right. Verse 15, let us therefore as many as be perfect. What does it mean to be perfect? The law is perfect, converting the soul, making wise the simple. That's another word that you have to understand what it means when you see it in the Bible. Perfect means to keep the law, statutes, and commandments. Perfect does not mean not making any mistakes, because that's what the white man teaches now that perfect means. That is not God's definition of perfect. Perfect means God said, don't be a homosexual. You're not a homosexual. God says, don't commit murders. You don't murders. That's perfect. God says, don't eat pork, crab, shrimp, and lobster. You don't eat pork, crab, shrimp, and lobster. That's perfect. God says, don't worship the gods of the other nations. You're not a Christian. You're not a Muslim. You're not a Buddhist. You're not a Rasta. You only serve the Most High. That's perfect to the Most High. You understand? God says sex is marriage. You have sex with a woman. You keep her forever. That's perfect to the Most High. That's what it means to be perfect. You understand? Just so that everybody can clear it up. Being good is not the same as being perfect. All right? Because Christ said, why callest thou me good? When that man came and asked him in Matthew, the 19th chapter, he says, there is none good but one. That is the Most High. But if thou will enter into life, keep the commandments. Keeping the commandments is being perfect. Just so everybody's clear. Everybody give me a one if you clear, all right? So I can move on. All right? So now, verse 15, he says, let us, therefore us, not everybody, as many as be perfect. There's a keeping the law, statutes, and commandments, because that's perfect to the Most High. Be thus minded. Let everyone that's keeping the Most High's laws have this mind to press towards a goal. You're not in the truth just to put baby doll tassels on your t-shirt, just so you can say I'm an Israelite and then, go celebrate Christmas and eat pork, or get dreadlocks and shape-ups and shave your face, or say I'm an Israelite and do what a Christian does and then goes and chooses a church that where people say things that they like. That's what Christianity teaches. That's why there are 100 churches, 100 mosques, 1,000 leaders, 1,000 beliefs, and a bunch of fake Israelite groups in one home of the truth. You understand? Which is the ISUPK. No one is in the truth if you are not in the ISUPK. You are not pressing towards the mark of building the kingdom of Christ by going to your own church with your own self-appointed leaders when God appointed commanding General Yohanan. They did the same thing in Christ's day. They refused to obey Christ. When Christ died, they refused to obey Peter, even though Christ put Peter in charge with the authority the Most High gave him while he was alive. It's been the same thing. All right. All right. And if anything be otherwise minded, if anything is opposite of obeying the Most High, you understand? God shall reveal even this unto you. The Lord is going to reveal it. That's why the things that we say and teach through the Spirit of the Most High in these ISUPK classes are making everything crystal clear for you. If you're not sure what heaven and hell is, we make it clear. You're not sure what death and life is, we make it clear. Genesis and Revelation, the dietary law. How does the Most High look? What is hate? What is love? What did God say is right? Why? Why are the other nations here? What's going on? We make it very clear. The Bible says in Amos chapter 3 and verse 7, the Lord does nothing except he reveal his secrets unto his servants, the prophets. The prophets of the Most High are only in the ISUPK, and we are revealing to you the secrets of the mysteries of God, the mysteries that are in this Bible. You understand? All right. That's how it will be made known unto you. Verse 16. Nevertheless, whereunto ye have already attained. You've attained something. You come in the truth, you're learning, you know where to go, you know where to learn, you know how to be perfect because you're being taught. You're being trained, you're being raised the perfect way, unlike how we were raised being born the first time in the world if you are not a baby of brothers and sisters that are in the truth. All right? Let us walk by the same rule. Don't change anything. Don't change the doctrine. Don't change the name of the Most High from Yahweh. Don't start making up Yiddish, saying we Yeshua and Yeshui and E's and O's and U's, because that is not what you were taught. Everybody is doing that except for the ISUPK. They don't even teach the Lashawan Quadash. They got people speaking Yiddish. You understand? And all of these fake Israelite groups. Brethren, be followers together of me. He's saying, brothers, be followers of me. This is what he's saying. And mark them which walk so as ye have us for an example. We are your example. Follow me because I'm following Christ. This is what he's saying. Verse 18, this is coming to Officer Yerashma's question. For many walk. Many people say they're walking. Everybody's walking. Of whom I told you often. Many times I told you about many that are walking. And now I tell you again, weeping. I'm telling you again, there are other people that are walking. There are other people that say that they are in the truth. There are other people that say, you understand, they know about the Bible. They serve in Christ too. Peter, Paul had to explain this specifically because there were fake Israelites that refused to obey the Most High. Exactly what I was just saying. For many walk, of whom I've told you often, and now tell you weeping. I'm telling you sad. I'm telling you weeping, that they are enemies of the cross of Christ. They're enemies of his death. They're enemies of his sacrifice. Why are they enemies? Because they refuse to follow him. They setting up their own thing. They're not building the kingdom. They building up their church. That's why eventually you see now they go into Africa. You'll see them now. They bringing in white women, white men. You see now they're getting rid of the Lashawan Quadash. That's why it's important to be in the Hebrew language class every Friday so that you can learn the actual biblical Hebrew, which is the language of the Israelites. So when you see these people that Paul is warning the school about in Philippi, the same way that we are warning everyone else, they got Hamites in. Hamites will rape and kill you and bury your body in the park. They bring it in the East Indies. They bring it in Arabs. They bring it in Ishmael. They bring it in all the other nations just like the church. They changed the doctrine. They put baby doll tassels on T-shirts, which was never our custom. They bring it in prostitutes. They robbing. They telling brothers and sisters sex is not marriage. They changing the doctrine. Now telling brothers and sisters a man can only have one woman. Now the Roman custom for a ring and a piece of paper is what an official marriage is. So you've been having sex with some sister with 3 kids for 10 years. These bastards go tell your woman that y'all not really married, so she go have sex with 2, 3 of them before they put her out. You understand? Like this is what Paul was warning the schools that he set up under the authority of Christ. This is what he was warning them, and that's why we are making it known unto you every single chance. Christians and fake Israelites don't understand why we tell brothers and sisters, if you are not in the ISUPK, the Lord is not with you, you are not in the truth, you are not serving the Most High, you are not following Christ, you are outside of the body, you are doing your own thing. And it's imperative that we tell brothers and sisters this so we can make it very clear for you, because the consequence for disobeying the prophets in Deuteronomy, the 18th chapter, there are dire consequences. You understand? And our people don't ever learn from suffering consequences because we follow the people God did not set up. All right. So now, where we at? Shall reveal this thing to you, verse 16, verse 18, an example, verse 19. Now, what is he talking about? Many of whom that I've told you often, be wary of them, they are enemies of the cross of Christ, whose end is destruction. Their end is going to be destruction, whose God is their belly, how much they can eat, how much money they can get, what lust they can fulfill, how to glorify, and whose glory is in their shame. Their glory is, we setting up schools in Africa. We going to Japan. We going to India. That's shameful. The whole purpose of coming into the truth is to deliver the children of Israel that are being oppressed under the Hamites, under the Africans, under the East Indians, under the Asians, under the so-called oppressor. All of these things is the purpose for coming into the truth. That's the mark we're pressing towards serving Christ. The kingdom, they're going into captivity. We are trying to deliver our people from under their foot as they starve us to death and rob us blind. That's the purpose for the truth. That's why it's so evil when they bring in other nations of people talking about they Israelites too. You understand? All of this madness. They only care about themselves. If they love the Most High, if they loved Israel, if they love blacks and Hispanics, they would come into the ISUPK. All right? That's why tonight's class we're talking about what is love, what is hate. Their glory is their shame. You understand? Who mind earthly things. They don't mind spiritual things. It's spiritual and very important to teach brothers and sisters that sex is marriage according to God. It's spiritual, and it's a spiritual thing so that blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans learn this, because this is a major destructive force amongst our people at every age, at every level, not knowing this very important rule. All right. The earthly thing, because of our oppressive society, is to tell a man that a ring and a piece of paper is marriage, to tell a woman she can leave her man, when it is the absolute destruction of our entire society. You understand? Because they don't mind spiritual things, they mind an earthly thing. If you go to Africa, if you set up businesses in Africa, which is why people go to Africa, that's why the Williams and Jay-Z, they're not building centers in Brooklyn and Detroit and Harlem. They're building centers in Africa. Why? Because the government will give you tax breaks and incentives to go do business in Africa, to build up Africa, to bring United States money from American banks into African banks and develop there so that they don't have to do it. That's why you don't get those same incentives for doing that in El Salvador, in Guatemala, in Colombia, in Bolivia, in Peru, and in Haiti, and Dominican Republic, and in Trinidad. You know why? Because that is where the children of God are, and they don't want to build up the place where the children of God are, because they get rich from oppressing us while we are destroyed. All right. So back on that, this is what it's talking about. They mind earthly things. They want to be the mayor. They want to be who's popular. We are not concerned with being popular in the ISUPK. We're not concerned with everybody liking us. We're not concerned with making sure that everybody feels good after it's over. That's not what we do here, because the Lord is not concerned with everybody liking him or everyone feeling good about what he says. We're concerned with the lives of blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans, and teaching our people to obey the Most High so that they can be under his protection and not die. That's what we're concerned about. Nobody else is concerned about that. You can't be concerned about it and truly want to serve the Most High outside of this body. And this is what Paul, who wrote this is what he's explaining to the school that the Lord had him set up in Philippi. All right. Let me know if that answers your question. That's the breakdown of those scriptures there. All right. We at 7:40. I got to move on. Your question was, the cross of Christ is the suffering that Christ endured and dying for us to have a second chance to rule the earth. Yes. All of that. Being in the truth, all of that is a part of it. Philippians 3:19. We got Officer Yagadar, Genesis 15:18 through 21. All right. Just let me know if that answers your question. If you need me to get some more, just type it in there, all right? If not, I'm moving on. Genesis 15. Trying to cover more and more scriptures each class, Akim. Akwathim, all right? Of course, you brothers and sisters, you got a question, type it into there so I can get to it. This is the scripture breakdown class. This is where you bring your scriptures, bring your questions, brothers and sisters. You got kids, children, everybody asking questions. Make sure you type them in so we can get to them, all right? So where we at? Genesis 15, 18 through 21, where these Africans part of the covenant promised to Abraham. All right. There's a river that flows through the Bible. So we're going to get to it. Genesis 18 through 21. All right. Genesis chapter 18, verse 21. Let's see what's going on. In the same day, the Most High made a covenant with Abram. This was before his name was changed to Abraham, saying, unto thy seed. That's your seed. The seed is what comes from you. That's your children, your offspring, the seed that's slain for your seed, your children. The sperm that is inside of a man's testicles, that's your seed. That's what it's talking about there in the Bible. When you take that seed and put it into your wives or your wife, your offspring is that seed. The brothers and the sisters, the sons and the daughters that you have, that is your seed. The people who are already alive. You understand? They are not your seed because your seed is who is going to come after you. If there are already people that are here now, they can't be your seed. You understand? Abraham or Abram, before his name was changed to Abraham, he had a family. He had a family, his land. His father was Ur of the Chaldees, Terah. He had a whole family and everything. His cousin Lot came with him. The Lord told Abram to leave his entire family, him and his wife Sarai, before her name was changed to Sarah. They were to pack up their stuff and leave. Get away from the land of his family so that the Lord can start a new family through Abraham only. He already had a family. His seed is not the family he left. His seed is the children that he will have in the future. There's important concepts in the Bible about how a free man thinks. All right? Lineage, your heritage, your children, what gets passed down to your children, what is going to be the future resources in land, the inheritance to keep pure so that your children will have this to inherit without some other nation of people having right to it or taking it or sharing it with somebody else. The Lord was making us a special people unto himself, and he had to remove Abram from his family to make a new family, a new nation from his children or his seed. That's what that means. All right. Everybody clear on that? Type of one, let me know. All right. Officer Rashimov, you in the class? Contact, send Trooper Shamaga Bar a text. See what his brother is. All right. Send his brother a text. I was just talking about you. Most High in Christ. All right. Shalom. All right. Okay, Most High in Christ. Everybody with me. Okay. So now we got that information. Genesis chapter, we in the question, Genesis 15 and verse 18. Officer Yagadar's question. In the same day, the Lord made a covenant with Abram, saying, unto thy seed, we just broke that down, have I given this land. That's what we're talking about. He's given something to his seed, this, the land from the river of Egypt, all the way from Egypt. The river in Egypt is our land that belongs to our seed, belongs to his seed, his children, which means it belongs to us, unto the great river, the river Euphrates. From there to Euphrates, all of that land belongs to us. Now he starts naming people. The Kenites and the Canaanites, all of those names, their names are irrelevant. It's a waste of time reading all those names. The Amorites, the Canaanites, Girgashites, Jebusites, these are people that later on, if you look up the names of these people, you will see that we had war with those people. The Lord told Joshua to go and wipe them out after we got out the wilderness. That's what Joshua and Caleb went to spy out the land. All of these nations lived in our land. The Lord told King David to go and get rid of them. The land of the giants, Sihon, king of the Amorites, Og, king of Bashan, the giants. You understand? The Lord gave an order for all of them to be killed because that land belonged to the children of Israel. They live there now. God doesn't want them to exist anymore. Now, that inheritance will belong to us. Right now, it's just Abram and his wife. But in the future, the land where those people live will all belong to the children of Israel. All right? That's what this is talking about. The covenant is not for those people. The covenant is for Abram's children that he will have generations down the line. Those nations that he named, they are going to get wiped out so that that land will go to who God intended, which is the children of Israel, which today would be us. Now, everybody and their mama lives in our land because we disobeyed the Lord. We're going to get all of that land back once our king returns. All right. So, all right. Let me know if that answers your question, Officer Yagador. Now I'm moving on. Trooper Kazakia says a breakdown for Zephaniah 2 and 1. All right. Let's get it. Zephaniah 2 and 1. All right. Let's see. Zephaniah chapter 2 and verse 1. Shall gather. All right. Zalaki. There are many need some water. Like it. There are many precepts for Zephaniah 2 and 1. Good question. All right. Trooper Kazakia. Zephaniah chapter 2 and verse 1. Very simple scripture. Very powerful scripture. Zephaniah 2 and 1. Gather yourselves together. Yourselves. Not all people, not everybody. Gather yourselves together. Who are the yourselves? Yea. Yes. Yea means yes. Gather together. Why does it have to say yea? Because getting blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans to gather together is a miracle and an act of God. And what you saw on that dock in Alabama, Montgomery, Alabama, where slaves used to be ferried down the river and sold at auction right there at that same spot, that was an act of God. Gather yourselves together, yea, gather together, O nation not desired. Who is the nation not desired? The children of Israel. Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans. That is Zephaniah chapter 2, verse 1. That's the breakdown of Zephaniah 2 and 1. And you want some precepts for Zephaniah 2 and 1? There are very many precepts for Zephaniah 2 and 1. I'll give you some. Make sure you write it down. Make sure that you are taking notes in these classes, Akim. Brothers and sisters, if you are not somewhere driving behind the wheel of a car or a bus or something where it's unsafe, don't come in these ISUPK classes and not take notes. Don't take for granted now that you are able to sit and watch videos of classes. Every time Putin makes an announcement, the damn internet shut off here in America. I don't know if y'all know that. Facebook, everything, all of them things go haywire. Cash App start working. World War III jump off. Don't think you're going to be able to just use the internet and everything. You understand? Don't take for granted. Make sure you're in here learning. You're learning. You're taking notes. You're studying. You understand why you're able to take full advantage of these things. Don't take for advantage that you're able to, don't take for granted, Salakia, that you're able to come and be in these classes and learn and watch them over and over again. Make sure you're taking notes, you're writing, you're asking questions, you're learning, you're following along, because the Lord could make it so you don't have access to them. You understand? Our people had the prophets on the street teaching them on the Sabbath day, and they decided to not listen to the prophets. And the Lord removed all the prophets, and nobody knew what the hell was going on. That's why you got a book that says Samuel. Nobody else knew what was going on but Samuel. Nobody else knew what was going on but Isaiah or Ezekiel. So make sure that you have that in your mindset as well. All right. The scriptures say, study to show thyself approved. All right, sis, we're going to come to your question in just a moment. Trooper Kazakia, one of the precepts there is for Zephaniah 2 and 1. You have Micah, Micah, chapter 4, verses 5 and 6. As a matter of fact, you can do 5 all the way to 7. I'll read that. For all people will walk everyone in the name of his God, and we will walk in the name of the Most High, our power forever and ever. Every other people is going to walk in their own God, but the children of Israel are going to serve the Most High. Verse 6, in that day, saith the Most High, I will assemble her that halteth. I will gather them together, her that stopped. The word halt means to stop. And I will gather her that is driven out. Her is talking about Israel, because the children of Israel were driven out of our land because we disobeyed the Most High. And her that I have afflicted, her that the Lord has punished. He's hurt us. He's afflicted us because we disobeyed him. Verse 7, and I will make her that halted a remnant, her that held up and obeyed the Most High. That's why when you see the words in the commandments, it says, hearken diligently. Hearken, hearken, hearken. That means listen to the Most High. Pay attention to the Most High. A remnant means who is left. Why? Because there are millions of us in prison. We're getting murdered. We're getting gunned down. We're getting beat to death at our damn job. You understand? With stress and heart attacks and strokes, AIDS, cancer, murder, police, everything is killing us. Immigration, customs enforcement, you understand? The reservation, lack of food, dirty water in Mississippi and Flint and Alabama, you understand? Drugs, everything. That's why it's only a remnant of us that is left. And her that was cast far off, a strong nation. Like a strong nation separated us. That's the transatlantic slave trade and the trail of tears. And the Lord shall reign over them in Mount Zion. Mount Zion is in Jerusalem from henceforth, even forever. This is talking about when Christ comes. So this is another precept that you can use right here. For Zephaniah chapter 2, verse 1. Very good question. All right. Y'all get into the spirit of that of this scripture breakdown class. I'll get you some more. Acts chapter 2, in the day of Pentecost. That's where all nations were gathered together. You understand? The Lord said, gather together, O nation not desired. When you go to Acts, the 2nd chapter, in the day of Pentecost. I'll just read a little bit of the backstory. The day of Pentecost. Pentecost, penta, is where you get 5 for pentagram. Pentecost was 50 days after the Passover. It's a law in the Bible. Everyone is to gather together in Jerusalem, the city of David, for the Passover. So the devout men that keep the Most High's laws, statutes, and commandments, they came for the Passover. That's why brothers came to Durham, North Carolina, because this is where the Lord had the Passover. That's why they came from the UK. They came from Jamaica. They came from Trinidad. They came from all over the world and from Mexico and from Canada, Central and South America, because that is the spirit of gathering together the nation. Devout men that keep the Most High's commandments where they are, they serve the Most High. So that's why they came in this Acts, the 2nd chapter. So the day of Pentecost was come. And now, verse 5, it says, and they were dwelling at Jerusalem. So they're all in Jerusalem. Jews. All of these men are Jews. They're Israelites. Devout men. What is a devout man? This is a man that keeps the Lord's law, statutes, and commandments. All right. Out of, even though they're Jews, they are out of every nation, every other land under heaven. They're in Canada. They're in the UK. They're here. They're there. They're in Brazil. They're in El Salvador. They're in Mexico. They're in Alaska. Every nation under heaven, but they're still Israelites. They're still Jews out of every nation under heaven. So you got all the people that are together, but they're all Israelites. Now I'm going to get some more. Verse 6. Now when this was noised abroad, everybody heard it. The multitude, all of them together, big group of brothers and sisters, came together and were confounded. They were shocked. They were confused because that every man heard them speak in his own language. Just think, if you hear a brother, you see a black man that looks like me. You understand? To a brother or sisters, let's say if they're in northern Mexico, you understand? They see a brother looks like me, and then I open my mouth, and then I start speaking Spanish. And they're like, wait a minute, the hell is going on here? Or a brother that looks like me, and I open my mouth, and then I start speaking Greek or speaking Portuguese. That's why when Paul was in jail, they thought Paul was an Egyptian. You understand? Because he was a black man, but he spoke Greek. And they were like, what the hell is this nigga doing speaking Greek? I thought you was the Egyptian that did the riot in the wilderness. What's going on? Because it was such a shocking thing. That's why they said they were confounded. They were confused when they saw this. They're like, how is it that we all Jews, and I'm a Jew, and you and your fringes and boots and braids and beards like me, but you talking about you from Montreal, Canada, you understand? Or you from Toronto, talking about some Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shah Barakatham, sir. Or you from the UK, talking about Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shah Barakatham, sir. And brother from Mexico, Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shah Barakatham, come down. And brothers from Brazil, and brothers from the Netherlands, like, damn, how is it that brothers is from all of these places under heaven, but they Jews? And now we gather together with Jews. I see other Jews speaking Dutch, French, Arabic, Creole, Portuguese, English, because everybody there was speaking our language, which was Hebrew. But the Greeks had forced most of our people to speak Greek. So it's a whole ton of things that's going on, because remember, we are scattered. That's why Zephaniah 2:1 said, gather yourselves together because we have been scattered. That's what it's getting ready to read. So all of this you'll be able to use Trooper Kazakia and verse Acts 2nd chapter, verse 6. Now when this was noised abroad, the multitude came together and were confounded, because that every man heard them speak in his own language, not our language. Everyone hears them speak in their own language. But they're in a city where everybody is supposed to speak the same language. You understand? You wouldn't go to the Bronx, or you wouldn't come to Richmond and you see niggas with braids speaking Chinese, or brothers with braids and plaits and cornrows, you understand, speaking Spanish, you understand, or speaking Chinese or speaking Arabic, because the Arabs enslaved their people, and they in some village somewhere, or some city, some town in Bolivia, that the damn Arabs run the village, and now they raised up speaking Arabic, but they really Israelites. You see what I'm saying? So this is what's going on. So they asked this question, and they were all amazed and marveled. They were shocked, saying one to another, behold, are not all these which speak Galileans? I thought that everybody here is from Galilee. And how hear we every man in our own tongue wherein we were born? Parthians, that's a place. Medes, the Mede and the Persian Empire, and Elamites, brothers that were living amongst the East Indians, and the dwellers in Mesopotamia, in the Middle East, and in Judea, and in Cappadocia, and in Pontus, and Asia, Phrygia, Pamphylia, and in Egypt, and parts of Libya, about Cyrene, and strangers of Rome, Jews and proselytes. Proselytes are students that come into the class from a very far away place. You understand? For the longest time, the truth was only here in America, in the East Coast, right here. Baltimore, Philly, Harlem, DC, that's where the hotbed of the truth was. Then the young man came into the school from the UK, Birmingham, England. And he started coming to class. And he started coming to class, taking it seriously. Next thing you know, there's a whole school under Captain Parasha in the UK that they're getting ready to do the tabernacles coming up in September with Commander General Johanna in King James Castle. There's a whole school now. That's what a proselyte is. That's a student that's very far away that comes into the school. That's what it means. Then, lo and behold, some brother in Trinidad coming to the school. And he start taking classes and coming up strong. Next thing you know, it's dozens of brothers and sisters in a school, UPK school in Trinidad. You understand? Like that's an example of what it's talking about because remember, these brothers and sisters who were Israelites, but they are from all of these other countries throughout Asia, throughout Africa, throughout Western Europe, throughout Central Europe, all of these places, they are all gathered together in Jerusalem because it's the day of Pentecost. And you cannot tell them apart because they were all Jews. They all said the same thing. They looked the same. They were there for the same reason because they were gathered together, old nation not desired. That's another example there. All right. So that's what it's talking about. All right. You got plenty in Revelation where he shall gather everybody together, separate the sheep from the goats. You can put that down in your precept. All right. As well, separate sheep from the goats, wherein I have driven them. All right. Let's see. Driven away, Babylon broken his bones, for the Lord had driven you out of straits with no man had been able to stand. Salakia had driven them out for the enemy. Salakia whereabout. Salakia. Let me see if there's any more quick ones I can give you. But those are a few. Those are a few that can be used. You can do one stick for the house of Joseph in Jeremiah 31 and 31. That's another one that you can use. Trooper Kazaki, Jeremiah 31 and 31, where the Lord is going to put us together, all the 12 tribes, and shall appoint one king over them. It might be 31 and 31 through 33. All right. Not according to the new covenant, put my law, and they would be my people. Make a new covenant. It doesn't say gather. Gather the outcast of Israel. So let me see it. See if I can get you some more. All right. Isaiah chapter 56 and verse 8 is another one. The Lord which gathereth the outcasts of Israel saith, yet will I gather others to him beside those that are gathered unto him. Talking about the outcasts of Israel gathered together. All right. Psalms 147 and 2. The Lord doth build up Jerusalem. He gathered together the outcast of Israel. That's another one. All right. Outcast of Israel. Let's see if there's any more in the New Testament. Troops of daughter of truths. Gather together the tears and the bundles. That should be enough. That's a few there. You should be good. Gather, O Jacob. Micah chapter 2 and verse 12 again. I will surely assemble, O Jacob, all of thee. I will surely gather the remnant of Israel, and I will put them together as the sheep of Bozrah and as the flock in the midst of their fold. They shall make great noise by reason of the multitude of men. That's another one you can use there. Micah chapter 2 and verse 12. All right. All right. That should be good. You should be good to go. All right. But that you said to okay, Most High in Christ. So we're gonna move on from there. All right, Most High in Christ. You got it. All right, Sister Raiha. Got a question. Ephesians chapter 4. Breakdown for Ephesians chapter 4, 13 through 15. All right, no sweat, sis. Ephesians chapter 4, 13 through 15. All right. Ephesians. Ephesians chapter 4 and 13. All right. Ephesians chapter 4, 13 through 15. All right. So this here, Ephesians, this fourth chapter, again, this is another school in Ephesians. That's why it's named the Ephesians. These are letters that Paul is writing to the schools that he set up. Paul, of course, is in jail for teaching the gospel. He's writing these letters from prison to the schools that he set up. So let's see Ephesians. Once you get to 13, he's in the middle of what he's saying. Like again, I always say they're broken up in verses, but he did not write verses. He just writing a letter. So let's see where his thought starts, and then we'll go from there. He dropping something heavy to the school in Ephesians. So let's see. Let me take a look at 13. Till we all come to unity of faith, acknowledging the Son of the perfect man, and measure henceforth no more be taught. Okay. This is not bad. So he's writing to the school about building up, staying strong in the truth. All right. We can start about verse 12. So we're going to start a little bit up in verse 12. We might even go up a little bit further. He's writing a letter. Lowliness, meekness, long suffering. He's telling them how to deal with brothers and sisters that's in the school. All right. So now in verse, do I want 12, 11? Send up high to captivity. All right. Let's start. Measure of grace. Everyone has a gift. No more children to and fro by truth. So this is talking about the gifts that has been sent down from the Most High to build up the school, to build up the truth for brothers and sisters that are in there. So in verse 11, let's start at Ephesians chapter 4 and verse 11. And he's saying, and he gave some apostles, like these are spirits to do a job. An apostle, that's the leaders that are in charge. You understand? That's what we would have today, a general. These are the leaders that are in charge. Just like we have the generals, commanding General Yohana, you have one that is in charge. And under him, you have other generals. You got General Muhammad, General Mayak, General Hazayan, General Shalimar, General Katam Gabar, General Kubalamath. You understand? Under the generals, the heads that are in charge, some prophets. Prophets are the brothers that go out on the street and speak. That is the job of a prophet. Go out on the streets like it. Go out on the street and speak. And some evangelists, brothers that teach and spread the truth. You understand? Not every brother is good at spreading the truth. You understand? That's a gift to be able to do that, to spread the truth. You understand? And some pastors, people that look after the sheep, look after the flock, and teachers, someone that teaches in a classroom. Some brothers have the gifts to be multiple. Not every brother does. You understand? But all of these things, these gifts the Most High gave to give order and structure to the nation so that brothers and sisters can come into the truth. Verse 12, for the perfecting of the saints, to make them perfect, for the work of the ministry. What is ministry? Ministry just means service. The work. That's why if you are in the truth, this is work. You going on your job, as it's called in the world, that's slavery. Because if you were not in captivity, you would not spend 15 hours a day, 3 hours in traffic, 10 hours away from your kids, most of the day away from your spouse and your families, living in other cities, being underneath of the law, paying taxes to other nations and people under their laws. They bringing drag shows to the school, all kind of madness going on, killing your babies in the city, all kind of murder and crime and oppression. That's captivity. We're in captivity, and to survive in captivity, we have to serve out slavery. That's your 9 to 5, your 6 to 10, whatever job of slavery you're working in. All right. The work is being here in the truth, for the work of the ministry, for the edifying, the teaching of the body of Christ, the brothers and sisters that are in the truth. That is what it is. Verse 13, till is short for until we all come in the unity of the faith, until all of us come into the unity of the faith, blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans, you understand? Until all come into the unity of the faith. What is the faith? You understand? Being in the truth, the same doctrine, the same things, having the same belief. That is only here in the ISUPK. Every Christian believes something different. Every Muslim believes something different. Every Buddha, every Rasta, you understand? Everybody believes something different in their own special way, with their own personal way to do things. That's not being in the truth. That's not unity. Nothing is united in the Black, Hispanic, and Native American community towards the Most High, except the ISUPK, and of the knowledge of the Son of God, the Son of the Most High, the knowledge about Christ's reputation. It's very important to learn about Christ, because the majority of the planet does not know about Christ. The majority of the planet believes that Christ is a oppressor. You understand? A white man that died for everybody, he loves everybody. Even the people that know that Christ is black, they don't have knowledge of Christ. They think that Christ is okay with them joining a fake Israelite group and doing their own thing. They think that, I know Christ is black, but you're still going to go to church. I know Christ is black. You understand? The knowledge of Christ is that he was a black man that put his followers in charge of the nation. And the people that knew about Christ, doing miracles, healing the sick, raising the dead, they did not have the knowledge of Christ, because they still refused to follow him. And they went and made their own fake Israelite groups that they had to get beat to piss and stripped by the demons in Acts the 17th chapter. You understand? It's coming. It's coming. You understand? We're not saying it for no reason. You're going to see the Lord is not with these fake Israelite groups. You understand? Even more that the Lord has already revealed it, you're going to see. And it's going to be terrible, just like when Tazadakia died and wasted brothers and sisters' lives for 20 and 30 years following his madness, while he created a doll of himself, launched a rap career, got Bentleys and Rolls Royces and mansions, robbing his people blind. You're going to see the same thing with the purple cowards. You're going to see the same thing again. Same thing with the candy canes. Same thing with decades of the rape squad teaching that you can rape. As long as a little girl has a period, you can have sex with her. As long as you want to, you're going to be able to beat and rape women. Yet they disappeared too. And then they made fake Israelite groups from brothers that left them and still don't know what the hell they're doing. And brothers and sisters flock and gather to them, whose lives are in danger because they have not followed the Most High. They don't have the actual knowledge of Christ. They know about Christ. They don't have knowledge of Christ. You understand? And Christians, you can forget about it. They still praying to a white picture, even with all this truth and information telling you that Christ is black and the church is, filled with robbers and child molesters. Nobody gives a damn about that. You understand? Until a perfect man, Christ is the perfect man. He kept the Most High's laws, statutes, and commandments the way the Most High intended. That is what perfection is. Every time you see the word perfect, the law is perfect, making wise, converting the soul, making wise the simple. That's what perfection means. Unto the measure of the stature of the fullness of Christ, the same way that Christ did, the same way that he taught us. That's exactly what we're aiming for. You understand? Shalachi. That we henceforth, that from here on out, that's what henceforth means, us in the truth, be no more children We're not going to be a child. You understand? Our people in the world are children, are children. Children play with things that are serious. They play with fire. Children play with sex. You understand? They play with sex like it's just, it's a toy. It's a joke. It's a game. When you have sex with the wrong person, you will die. You will absolutely lose your life. Your entire life will change. You will now have a new life being brought into the world. That's how serious sex is. You understand? That's what a sister getting pregnant. That's the Lord choosing to bring a new life into the world. That seed inside of a brother, he puts inside of his woman, and now there's a person that God has put inside of that woman growing. This is life and death here. You understand? We're not going to be children anymore that play with sex. You understand? We're not going to be children anymore that play with the holidays, that play disobeying the Most High, celebrating Christmas and Thanksgiving until, your sister's baby daddy and her boyfriend shoot up the house and, your niece end up getting hit with a stray bullet and dying. We're not going to play with that anymore. You end up getting robbed at gunpoint and executed for Christmas toys. You understand? We're not going to play with that anymore like our people do in the world because they are children. They are simple. They don't know what's serious. We're not going to play with interracial marriage, thinking that you can have a better life by moving your black kids into a white gated community because the black community is so terrible, because black schools are so terrible. Even though those black universities and schools produce most of the scientists, doctors, and engineers that completely revolutionized America, you think it's better to go and be in the white gated community. And then you have to learn, like Trayvon Martin's father had to learn, that you should not bring your black son into a white gated community because you have sex with white girls. You shouldn't do that. Children play with sex. They think they can be with whoever they want. They believe that love is love. That's a child. A man that thinks he can have sex with another man, children think foolish things like that. That's why the World Health Organization and the Center for Disease Control backs up God's words that everyone ignores, that if a man lie with mankind, they have done an abomination and their blood shall put them to death. That's what AIDS is. That's what hepatitis is. That's what hep C and all of that is rampant and predominantly targeting the homosexual LGBTQI WWF community. Just like God said, we won't be children playing with things that the Lord told us not to do. So when it says, Ephesians chapter 4 and verse 14, from here on out, being no more children, tossed to and fro. What does it mean, tossed to and fro? You understand? Not stable. Why are we not stable? Why were we not stable before? And is going to expound upon tossed to and fro. Everything is changing. Where's the truth? What's right? What's wrong? Well, they say that Jesus is black, but I heard that color doesn't matter. Maybe color doesn't matter. I didn't know Jesus was black my whole life. I celebrated Christmas my whole life. Well, it says we don't celebrate Christmas, but it says that, God loves us no matter what. But then they say that God doesn't love the sinner. But I was taught my whole life that God does love the sinner. It says in the Bible that Joseph had sex with Mary. That's what I learned coming into the truth. But my whole life I was taught that the Holy Spirit made Mary pregnant. So is this a magical ghost baby? Or did Joseph have sex with Mary to make Jesus like I'm learning here? Those things to and fro, carried about by every whim of doctrine. What is a doctrine? Every bit of teaching by the sleight of men. Well, sex is marriage, but only if you have a ring and a piece of paper. That's what's really a marriage. That's a sleight of man, because God did not say if you had a piece of paper. If you 15 and you go have sex with another 15-year-old, you a 15-year-old boy, you had sex with a 15-year-old girl, you married her. You cannot leave her. That's permanent. You understand? You leave her to go be with another one, you anger God. If you leave that boy to go have sex with another boy, you're a little girl, you anger God. Teenagers get killed all the time for things like this. Children don't realize how serious this is. We here are not going to stay children. We're learning important lessons. You understand? All right, let's see where we are. Every whim of doctrine. Immaculate conception is a whim of doctrine. Allah is God. Allah is by all the weather God. Before the Arabs had Israelites in captivity, they worshiped one God for every day of the year. They had a different God, just like the East Indians. They all have different gods. They worship the cow as gods, just like Egypt. They pray to statues. Yes, Paul, well, don't say the brother rambles. No, you don't want to say that. I understand what you're saying, sis, but Paul is hard to read at times because you need the scriptures to be broken down. You understand? Like the scriptures have to be broken down. The Bible is not a graphic novel that you can just pick it up and just, I know what this is saying. It's someone has to break the scriptures down for you. The Bible says God hid this knowledge from the wise and the prudent. Someone that can go to school, they can start a business, they can work, they can take care of themselves, they can get a degree, they can obtain whatever they can in society, in the world. Exactly. I got you, sis. No sweat, no sweat. But the Lord has hidden it, so you have to humble yourselves to go to the men that the Lord set up to learn, which most of our people never did. That's why Christ talked to them in parables, so that if they do not come into the truth to humble themselves, to get under Peter and Paul and Silas and Andrew, if they don't humble themselves and come into the truth, they have no idea what Christ was saying. And he did it that way to empower the select few men that he wanted up here to be in charge, and to make everyone else have to go to them. You understand? So that hierarchy, there's no equality in the Bible, and our people still believed in that. And it was never that way in the Bible. And that's the spiritual river that flows throughout the Bible. You understand? And it's important to learn that. Right, exactly, sis, exactly. And a lot of the Bible is written in Old Quaker English as well. And you have, it is English, but it's a different language. No sweat, sis, I understand. No sweat, I got you. It is English, but it's old English. It's almost a different language altogether, and you have to learn what those things mean. That's why we had the Bible dictionary. That's why we use the regular Webster's dictionary to get the definition of the words, because it's not common knowledge. That's why you come to the Israelite school for Israelites, to learn universal practical knowledge. That's the name of the school. I got you, sis. No sweat. All right. So now this is what he's saying, so that we are not carried by every whim of doctrine. Our people believe in Egypt to this day, even though the Egyptians had us in slavery. Any records you can go and look up about ancient Egypt tell you the Egyptians had slaves. It's on the walls. You see a different people in captivity. Is carved into stone, us in slavery serving the Egyptians, believing that black people are Africans. Africans come to America, they don't want anything to do with black people, yet and still black people get suckered every time an African. You get free citizenship in Ghana. If you come to Ghana, we will give you a Ghanaian citizenship for all the black American peoples. If you come to Kenya, President Kenya says you get American citizenship. Next thing you know, your simple behind empties your American bank account, all of your 401k. You bring your money over to Africa. You're there, it's 1,000 degrees. You need 100 shots just to step outside. The mosquitoes got diseases that don't even exist on this side of the world anymore because of the development of medicines and vaccines and science by black people and slaves. For those of you that don't know, vaccines come from slaves. They don't come from the World Health Organization. They don't come from Johnson and Johnson and Pfizer and Moderna. Vaccines come from slaves. You understand? That's where it comes from. Doesn't come from the white man. You don't know anything about health. He learned from slaves. You understand? Slaves on the plantation would take a needle. I only know this because I learned from Commander General Yana. They would take a needle of a slave that was sick, and they would get slightly, believe they were saying he would take it and get slightly a little bit of the tissue from under his skin and just slightly put some of the illness on the other slaves so that their bodies could develop an immunity to the illness. And then eventually they would get a little sick, and then little by little, they would develop what's known as herd immunity, so that they would not be sick by this virus anymore, even though our oppressor, who was always getting sick and dying because he was a walking disease, because he didn't bathe regularly, he didn't shower regularly, you understand? They didn't have adequate water supplies. All they did was fight and kill each other. They had pigs everywhere and rats. All of that stuff they spread throughout the world. Life was not like that. That was their life, and we made their life better. So it's a sidebar there. So now we're talking about, still back to Ephesians. These are the doctrines and the sleight of men. A ring and a piece of paper is now marriage. So if you're too poor, you can be with a woman for 10, 15 years. Y'all got kids, you live together, you own each other's insurance, all of the everything, spend your whole life together because of the whim of doctrine that Christianity spread through the Roman Catholic Church. You, in your mind as a woman, still think that you are not married to this man, even though y'all 3 kids in, y'all own each other's insurance, you driving each other's car, you spend every damn day, most of your life together for the last 10, 15 years. But that whim of doctrine makes you believe that the customs of man are putting a ring on your finger. You think that you being with him is, he not ready to settle down, so I got to go find somebody that's going to take me seriously. Those things toss our people to and fro, to and fro. What to eat, to and fro. Well, they say that we should eat an all diet, and well, we can eat the shrimp because shrimp and clams are good for you, and it's good for your blood. Then when you go to the doctor with your high blood pressure, they tell you to stop eating shellfish. Well, God has a law in the Bible that tells us what to eat, what not to eat. So we're not tossed by if they clean the pork properly, if they clean the shrimp. You understand? If it's 2023 and homosexuality, it used to be bad, but now the church says it has to evolve. Women used to not be able to teach the Bible because women are not allowed to teach the Bible according to God. But it's 2000, it's 1980, and women have come a long way, and they're a lot smarter than they used to be. And it's 1999, and it's 20 this, and 2020, and 2015. Next thing you know, women are in charge teaching. Shortly after women are teaching the Bible, you have the down low. And you got men that's in the Bible, that's in there teaching. Now, homosexuals run the whole church. You understand? Like everything tossing our people to and fro. You're going to die and go to heaven. That whole thing, from dying and going to heaven or dying and burning forever in hell, that entire thing comes from a play during the Renaissance period called Dante's Inferno. It's called the Divine Comedy. They took that and made that a part of Christianity in one of the many councils that they had about developing the Christian religion, which is not what's in the Bible. You were never going to burn forever in a lake of fire. That was a metaphor written in slang, talking about thermonuclear war that is going to bring so much fire and destruction, it will be as though there is a lake of fire on the land. You understand? That was a metaphor. But of course, white people don't speak slang. It's a spiritual language that blacks and Hispanics and Native Americans understand that our oppressor does not. That's why he teaches people that a snake, a rattlesnake, or a boa constrictor talked to Eve in the Garden of Eden. When the Bible is talking about a snake, it's just a man with a low down character. He robbing, he's stealing, he lying to people, he cheating. You understand? You drop money, he'll take it, he'll break in your car, steal your radio, have sex with your woman at work. He's a snake. That's what it's talking about, not a literal animal. But they don't speak our language. They don't have our spirit. That's the spirit of the Lord. The Bible is written in slang. You understand? So those are many examples about every whim of doctrine, the sleight of men, and cunning craftiness, whereby they lie in wait to deceive. That's how people get deceived. They tell the slaves, when you die, you're going to live in a sandcastle in the sky. That's why master beats you and whips you. You're earning your place in heaven. You go to church, you sing, you cry. Don't fight back. Don't be upset. Turn the other cheek. You got the love of the slave master that's lynching you and raping everybody and selling, destroying your family. Got to be a good Christian. Otherwise, you're going to die and you won't get heaven. When you die, you won't live up in the sky. You won't be able to. That's a clever whim of doctrine, because once brothers and sisters started to read the Bible in slavery, slave revolts everywhere. And that's another common misconception that generals want to make sure we clear up. Slaves were not just being willing slaves in captivity. There were so many slave revolts in the South. You understand? Crazy slave revolts. Slave revolts involving the Gadite tribes helping, involving runaway slaves running to the tribe of Gad, involving the Gullah Wars all down in the South, all tons of slave revolts all over the South. Our people were not just being happy, gleeful slaves, just taking it and accepting it. They were at war, just like in Jamaica, just like in Trinidad, just like in Haiti. There were tons of slave revolts. You understand? Christianity teaches you to highlight the good of slavery, the good slaves that just went along to get along, that were more concerned with their life and being right, not causing no trouble, and let's just get it done. I don't want no trouble, boss. You understand? That's not the spirit of God. That's the spirit that Christianity puts on our people. And that is a doctrine that Christ taught his disciples to fight. Because the white man, the Greeks, the Romans, through the threat of death and intimidation, that is how they forced our people to take their culture. They were killing us. They were putting us in ovens, just like Hitler did to the Jewish man that pretended to be us. That's why he put them in ovens. You understand? They did all manner of evil things to us to force brothers and sisters to take Greek culture. The same reason I'm speaking English, the same reason brothers and sisters in Latin America speak Spanish and Portuguese, and the brothers in the Caribbean speak French and Patois, because they forced this on our people. All right. So now we have verse 15, the sister's question, but speaking the truth in love, you understand, may grow up into him in all things, which is the head, even Christ. Speaking the truth in love, speaking the truth, teaching what's in the Bible, how to keep the commandments, how to stand for your people, how to love your neighbor as yourself, how to lay down your life for your brother, how to live your life doing right by your people, how to not be a traitor like Judas, a traitor like the leaders and politicians that we have in charge of most of our cities, like the civil rights leaders, and Al Sharpton and Jesse Jackson and Abernathy and John Lewis and Martin Luther King. How not to, for gain or for a buck or for just to live another day, you'll betray and backstab and whore yourself out and whore your people out just to go along. That is what Christianity teaches. And that is why sisters are on OnlyFans, whoring themselves out for $1, because that's the spirit of church. That's why sisters are prostituting in the strip club. That's why brothers rob and shoot and kill each other and sell drugs, anything to survive, to go along, to get along. But the spirit of the Lord is that make sure your brother lives. Don't destroy your brother. Don't destroy your sister. Your life is not more important than your brother and your sister's life. Keep the laws concerning your brother and your sister, because this is the love of God, that we keep his commandments. You understand? So that's the breakdown there for the scriptures the sister had, Most High in Christ. All right, let me know if that answered your question. We got about 12 minutes, something like that left. No sweat, sis. All right, let me know if that answers your question. All right, see if we can get some of these. right. No sweat. No sweat, sis. Got you here. Okay. Lay down. Lay. All right. Lay. This is what he's talking about. This is the spirit that the Lord wants us to have. This is the spirit that Christ died for. This is the Holy Spirit of God, and this is not the spirit that's in that Christian church. You cannot be a shucking and jiving, whine crying. I just hope everything gets better. I'll pray about it. That's not the spirit of God. That's not the spirit of the Most High. That is an anti-Christ spirit. That was not his spirit. John 15 and 13 says, greater love have no man than this, that he lay his life down for his friends. You understand? Like, this is what he's talking about. Christ was telling us, you understand, like to love one another. All right. And then he taught us what that meant. All right. So let's see, verse 12. Christ said, Salakia 15, where we at? John 15 and 12. Christ said, this is my commandment, that ye love one another as I have loved you. Greater love have no man than this, that a man lay down his life for his friends. All right. A friend is another very important word. It means something very important. A friend is not just we go to the same school, we go here. That's not what a friend is according to the Bible. A friend is someone tested and proven through trials and adversity. You understand? A friend is a very important thing. All right. Like, we put brothers and sisters to the test to see if you are a friend in here, to see if you are a friend of Christ. If you can't change your life to give up pork, crab, shrimp, and lobster, and Christmas, and weed, and dreadlocks, then you cannot be a friend here, because that is what the Lord requires to be a part of this family, to be a part of his body, that he first laid down his life in sacrifice to show that he was a brother and a friend. You understand? He was the example. It don't have nothing to do with singing and dancing and beating the tambourine and showing up to church on Sunday. That's not what this is talking about. He says, greater love have no man than this, that a man lay down his life for his friends, put his life on the line for his people, for his nation. That is what you see the brothers in the ISUPK do. Ye are my friends if, remember, every time you see if and the but, if ye do whatsoever I command you. If you keep my commandments, you are my friends. You understand? Henceforth, from here forward, meaning this, if you don't obey Christ, if you don't love one another, what is love? To keep God's commandments. If you don't keep God's commandments, you are not a friend to Christ. If you eat pork, crab, shrimp, and lobster, you are not Christ's friend, because his commandments come from the Most High. And the Lord says we cannot eat pork, crab, shrimp, and lobster. Henceforth, from here on out, I call you not servants. He's talking to his disciples. Christ is about to die. This is a brother. This is brotherhood. He is telling his disciples how to carry on once he is gone. You understand? This was a brother through and through. He loved his disciples. He loved his nation. And this is the spirit that the Lord wants to put inside of blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans. He was about to die. They were going to kill him and beat him and whip him and strip him and feed him vinegar. Anybody ever took a sip of vinegar by mistake? Not apple cider vinegar. They fed him vinegar. You understand? While he was bleeding with thorns on his head, bleeding from his head busted open, stabbed him in his side, beat his back, whipped him, stripped him in his drawers, made him march carrying a 9-foot wooden cross. Then they put nails in his feet and his hands and hung him on a cross where he hung until he suffocated. You understand? That's how he died. He would suffocate on the cross, trying to keep himself up straight, hanging by his feet and his hands. And his concern the most was about these brothers, was about what's going to happen to these brothers that I've been teaching. What's going to happen to these brothers I've been raising up? How are they going to carry on without me? I taught them everything that I had. Father, I'm about to go, but please keep these brothers. Watch over these brothers. Make sure that they stay together. Make sure that they take what I've learned and help and comfort these brothers, because I'm not going to be here anymore. I'm getting ready to go and risk and die a horrible death for the entire nation, for them and for the same brothers and sisters that hate me, that refuse to obey me, even though you gave me the power, even though you put me in authority. I'm getting ready to go now and die so that generations of brothers and sisters can come back to serve the Most High, so that one day we would be able to do what we're doing right now in 2023, fishing for brothers and sisters to come into the truth so that we can rebuild our nation. We can rebuild our society. You understand? Rebuild the kingdom of God so that our king can return and inherit what we have been working to build while he sits at the right hand of the Father, pleading for the Lord to give us another chance and grace and mercy so we can change our lives around. That's what Christ died for. His concern was these brothers that's going to be left here while he's gone. You understand? He said, you are my friends if you do whatsoever I command you. He wasn't talking about, oh man, I'm about to die. This is it. My life is over. He said, man, what's going to happen to my brothers? What's going to happen to these brothers, man? What's going to happen to them, man? Y'all make sure y'all stay strong, Akim. I'm not going to be here. I'm about to go, but y'all stay strong, Akim. Watch out for each other. Love each other. Deal right with each other, man. Y'all keep pushing this truth. Y'all keep fighting. Y'all stay solid, man. Remember the things that I taught you. Remember the things I laid down. Remember the miracles that I did. Remember the power, the authority that I gave you, man. Y'all keep going. Y'all keep fighting. Y'all keep warring. He's about to die. They're about to take him, crucify him. He's headed into federal custody. His concern is the work, is the body, is his brothers, his sisters, his nation. That was his concern. And that is the spirit the Lord wants us to have. With that spirit, black brothers and sisters won't shoot each other in Portsmouth. Won't be no more murders in Newport News. Won't be no more sex trafficking in Hampton Roads. Won't be no more of that. Won't be no more abortions. Won't be no more sisters getting left with the baby, raising the kid by themselves. Your woman won't leave you anymore. That's the spirit of the Lord. She won't leave her man anymore. You understand? All of our problems will get fixed with the spirit of the Most High. And that is the spirit that Christ died so that we could have an opportunity to get. That is the spirit that is being put on you as you are being taught. You understand? As Ephesians 5:26 says, ye are washed through the water of the word. You are being clean or baptized or taught by the words that you are taught. That's what happened in the schools. That's what's happening to you right now. You understand? All right. So for those of y'all that want it, Ephesians chapter 5 and verse 26 says that he might sanctify and cleanse it with the washing of water by the word. That's what it's talking about. That's what's happening right now. All right. So this is what Christ is saying as he's about to die. From henceforth, from here on out, I call you not servants, because they were there to serve him. For the servant knoweth not what his Lord doeth. The servant don't know what his master's doing. He just serving. He don't know what's going on next. He's just following the orders. He's serving. But I call you friends. For all things that I have heard of my Father, everything the Most High taught me, I have made known unto you. He didn't tell them in the world. He told his disciples, because the disciples humbled themselves to serve under him. You understand? The Lord would love for all blacks and Hispanics all throughout Hampton Roads, all throughout Lynchburg and Roanoke and South Boston, Woodbridge and all in Harrisburg and everywhere, The Lord would love for brothers and sisters to have this knowledge, to come into the truth, but they did not humble themselves to follow where the Most High called like you did. Do not take it for granted that you are in here. There are many brothers and sisters who once were in your class, in these classes, in these seats where you sit, even though you watch online. There were many, many brothers and sisters who sat in these classes, and they forfeited their seats, and they sorely regret them. Do not take for granted that the Lord gave you the ability to even understand these scriptures being broken down, let alone the spirit to fight against the demons to stop you from coming to class. Do not take this for granted. The Lord called you in here for a reason, and you are not permitted by the Lord to walk out of here. Now, if you choose to do so, you do it on your own, and the Lord will not be with you. And it is very important that you know this. You understand? So what he's saying, verse 16, ye have not chosen me. Like the arrogancy of the Christian church teaches, I chose Jesus. I found Jesus. You did not find the truth. Ye have not chosen me. You didn't choose this. You're not here because you chose this. But I have chosen you. The Lord chose you. That's why you're here and ordained you. I called you. Rose up the brothers and sisters, that ye should go forth and bring forth fruit. You understand? Fruit from the works that are being done while you are here in the truth. The fruit of the works of changing your lives to serve the Most High. That your fruit should remain. The fruit that you bring in, the works that you do, the garments you sew, the hair that you are braiding, the tithes and offerings and food that you bring in, the clothes that you donate, so that we can go forth and spread the word of the Most High. How you take care of the men of the Lord, you understand? How you provide for the prophets that war and hazard their lives to build up this nation, to build up Virginia. The fruit for you, a brother, to come in, to get in your all black, to learn Khan Adawan Khan, to take orders, to become a soldier, to build up this nation, to become a loyal and faithful warrior, a die-hard, hardcore warrior in this body, in this truth, to serve up our King, to serve and build this nation. You understand? In the ISUPK, let your fruit remain. Plenty of brothers have done work and their fruit, you understand? They roll up out the truth, man. Don't be like one of them. That whatsoever ye shall ask of the Father in my name, whatever you ask the Most High in my name, he may give it to you. You understand? With the Lord's name, with Christ's name, living after his reputation. Not just saying Jesus, Jesus, Jesus 20 times like Bloody Mary, Candyman, or Beetlejuice, which is what the Christian church teaches. My name is not repeating the words over and over again. That's how a white man thinks. The Bible is not written by a white man. When Christ says my name, he's talking about his reputation, that he was a black man from the tribe of Judah that died so that blacks and Hispanics and Native Americans can come back together, that the poor, the destroyed, the infant, the widowed, the fatherless will have protection for them. You understand? That the nation will be built up to deliver our people from the other nations of people that will hurt and oppress them, and from the cruel and the evil of our own people that will hurt and oppress them, like the pastors and religious leaders that's molesting all the damn children, that's robbing everybody of their money, thinking that you going to the mosque or to the church or to some nut telling you about Egypt to learn about God, when in reality he running game on you. Farrakhan been running game on black people since what? 70s, 80s, since the death of Elijah Muhammad. Farrakhan don't even believe in that Quran. He went to Scientology, to Dianetics, to Egyptology. Wherever there's a dollar, you'll find a hole. You understand? If the dollar say go left, the holes will go left. If a dollar say drop down to the floor, the holes will drop down to the floor. If it's money for Egypt, the holes will go to Egyptology. If it's money for Islam, the holes will be over there. If it's money in the church, the Democratic Party, Trump got some dollars, they got dollars here, a hole will follow it anywhere. Every whim of doctrine, our people have been sucked up into it, thinking that there is a place for us. When the only place our people belong is obeying the Most High in the Israelite school of universal practical knowledge. That is where we are supposed to be. Most of our people choose something else. You understand? So this is what Christ says in verse 17. He said, these things I command you, that ye love one another. If the world hate you, you understand? If the world despises you, not because you're robbing, not because you're murdering, not because you're stealing and committing crimes, they're supposed to hate you for that. You damn animal. But if the world hates you, if it despises you, if it rejects you, because you are the children of God, because you don't celebrate Christmas, because God said we cannot in Jeremiah the 10th chapter. If you don't eat pork, crab, shrimp, and lobster, because God said in Leviticus the 11th chapter, we cannot eat those things, and scallops and mussels and crabs, you understand? It's against God. If you understand, if you don't leave your husband, if you are a woman, for another man or for happiness, whatever the hell that means, or a good time, you understand, you stand with the Most High. You understand? But brother, don't throw away your sister. If the world is against you because you don't celebrate Christmas and birthdays, Mother's Day, Father's Day, Easter, the 4th of July, the world will, if the world hate you for being the children of God, for being an Israelite, ye know that it hated me before it hated you. You understand? Coming into the truth, serving Christ is not something that makes everyone love you. Your mother does not want you to do this. Most brothers, your woman does not want you in here saying that the oppressor is the devil. You can't have dreadlocks and get shape ups and have a smooth face anymore. You look like a damn toddler. You understand? Your mom is not going to like that. Your aunts are not going to approve in most cases. You stop eating pork, you stop getting high, you stop snorting coke, you stop selling weed. Your husband might be upset, sister. If you stop getting high, your husband, your man, he might want to throw you away because you're not getting high no more. You understand? You ain't eating pork no more. You serving the Most High. The world, don't be shocked if the world turned on you. That's the purpose of coming in here. That's why we don't have church services in the ISUPK. We aren't building a choir. This is a military and an army. You understand? It's a military and a governing body filled and run by warriors and men of war, because the Lord is a man of war. Because when blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans turn back to serve the Most High, you will finally be able to see just how much oppression the other nations of people keep their foot on our necks, on your people's neck, on a regular basis. And by you seeing it, they know that you have woken up now. And that's danger to their money supply. Because if you stop celebrating these holidays, they can't sell Christmas trees. They can't sell Mother's Day shirts. If you kept your family together, there is no more child support court, no more divorce court. Your kids are raised in a home with that father, that black and Hispanic father. They won't be molested, you understand, by the damn football and soccer and basketball and boxing coach or your preacher, because you won't be in church. The churches were shut down. So the money that's going to the church will actually get to the real men of God that are feeding, housing, clothing, counseling, and waking our people up, doing what Christ sent the disciples to do. You understand? This will fix our people. But what you're going to learn is that the majority of your people, of our people, of your moms and aunts and uncles and brothers and cousins and sisters and friends, they actually hate God. They despise the Most High, because to love God is to keep his commandments, and to despise God is to break his commandments. It's very simple. It's nothing magical. You don't have to be able to sing. You don't have to be able to dance. You don't have to have a whole ton of rhythm or long hair or an afro or a beard down to the floor. You don't have to have that to love God. You just have to keep his commandments. And most of our people absolutely refuse to do so. And that is what you're going to learn. And this is the instructions that Christ has given to his disciples, because the disciples are going to have to teach this to the brothers and sisters that come into the truth after he dies. You understand? Just like you are being taught now. All right? Verse 19. If ye were of the world, if you were made to fit in the society, the world would love its own. And this is something so important for blacks and Hispanics to learn. You don't fit into the society around you. You're trying to fit into Islam. You're trying to fit in democracy. You're trying to fit into the military. You're trying to fit in America's police force. You're trying. You're trying to out Muslim the Arabs. You're trying to out Christian the white man. You're trying to out democracy the oppressor. You're trying to out Rasta the actual East Indians. You understand? It's their culture. You see black man, you got more dreadlocks and more weed and more Jah Rasta and Rasta and Rasta when it's actually the East Indians culture. It has nothing to do with Africa, nothing to do with Ethiopia. Your weed comes from India. That's where the ganja plant comes from. That's where the poppy seed comes from for your syrup, your heroin, your opioids, your Percocets. All of that comes from India. Where is India? Pakistan, India, Afghanistan. That is the culture of the East Indians. That's where your dreadlocks comes from. That's nothing to do with the Bible, nothing to do with the God of Israel. Everybody is exploiting us. You don't fit in that society. That's why brothers from Jamaica tried to move to Ethiopia, and the Ethiopians told them to go and live in the woods. They cut down trees talking about we in the motherland. These Negroes living in woods, and they still don't have citizenship amongst the same Ethiopians that come to America and they drive Uber for you. And they smile in your face. You thinking we first cousins with them, like a dummy. They playing you. You don't fit amongst them. You don't fit amongst the Arabs. The Arabs in America are rich. They sell oil. They own gas stations and 7-Elevens and Dunkin' Donuts. They're wealthy and powerful. But you are a Muslim and you're not wealthy and powerful. You're in prison. You're in jail. They're closing down your housing community. You're the first fired and the last hired. You're selling bean pies on the street. I've never, ever in my life seen an actual Arab who is a Muslim selling final call newspapers or bean pies. Never, never, ever, ever. Because you don't fit in their society. You're not one of them. You're not a part of their world. You understand? That homosexual community. You are not a part of that community. That community is using black people as a mascot. You understand? You're not a part of that community. If you were, the millions of dollars that they're raising, they should be out there marching about how expensive AIDS medicine is. Since the World Health Organization and the Center for Disease Control say that if you are a black man or woman that is living an LGBTQI lifestyle, you have a higher chance than anyone on the planet of contracting HIV and AIDS, hepatitis, dying from AIDS. Your life expectancy is 38 years old if you are a member of the trans community and you are African American or so-called Hispanic or Native American. You are going to die before 40. That's expected. You understand? But nobody is talking about how you're going to die at 38, like the World Health Organization. Gabrielle Union ain't talking about it. Lizzo ain't talking about it. All the actors in Hollywood ain't talking about it. They having parades and marches and waving flags and having fun. They're not talking about all the child molestation happening in these churches, in these Christian homes with these Christian groups. They ain't talking about that. Or the Africa groups, like Polite, molested little girls that he believes is God. Want to take a 14-year-old to a damn nightclub to get her drunk and then have sex with her while she passed out. While you worship Africa, Africa, Egypt, Egypt, the Nile, ukutakatu, ukutakatu. Everything except coming into the truth and obeying the Most High. And you have to learn this hard lesson over and over again that you are not accepted in their world. You're not a part of their society. You are the thing that they step on to elevate their society. This is your society. You are supposed to be in the ISUPK, building up your people, building up your world. Or you cannot come in and everyone else will continue to step on you to get their rights. Because when two homosexuals want to adopt the children so that they can spread their homosexual philosophy and have a family, even though they don't want to do what is necessary to make one of their own, they're going to go and get little black children. They're not adopting little white kids. Two white gay men are going to adopt little black children in the foster care and the orphanage. They're not going to get their own people. They're going to use their experimentation on you, on your people. And then you send your kids to school and think you don't need to come into ISUPK. And they are going to make sure that there's training day at your kindergarten. You understand? They're going to make sure that they have drag shows for your kids. Some grown man in a G string is going to be doing twerk shows for kindergartners. And he's going to have a right to do it because you didn't get in the force to fight against it to protect your Black, Hispanic, and Native American children. You did some other thing. You had your own beliefs, your own way, in your own area. As long as the fire didn't reach you, it was fine. All right, no sweat. We'll see how that ends up. You understand? I would wait. You waited before. You had the 80s and the 90s and you waited. And then crack and heroin flooded. There was a force to stop crack and heroin from spreading, but our people chose Islam and the Black Panthers and Marcus Garvey and Christianity and democracy. And look how that turned out. I wouldn't wait if I was you, but I don't know. I don't understand not being in the truth. So, it's up to you. You understand? In John 15 and 19, it says, if ye were of the world would love its own. But because ye are not of the world, you're not of that world. You don't belong there. But I have chosen you out of the world, out of getting high, out of church, out of the mosque, out of democracy, out of Christianity, out of Islam. I've chosen you out of the world. The Lord called you. Therefore, the world hateth you. It's against you. Remember the word that I said unto you. Remember what I'm teaching you. Servant is not greater than his Lord, than his master. We are called to serve Christ. You serving Christ is not you having a personal relationship with Christ. You serving Christ is serving the men that Christ put in authority over you. That's how it's always been since the days of Adam, since the days of Moses, since the days of Abraham, since Christ, he put disciples in charge. That's how it has always been. If they persecute me, they come against me, they hate me, they attack me, they will also persecute you. They're going to come against you. You understand? We're not training to hug. We're not training for hugs and loves and kisses and agree to disagree. We're training for battle and warfare and conflict because the Lord is a man of war, about battle and war and conflict. You can't have love and be a church boy. You can't. They didn't have love in that church when Dylan Roof came. They weren't prepared to love anybody. Love, you have to be prepared to defend what you love, fight for what you love, die for what you love, stand for what you love, lay your life down for your brother, for your people. That's what love is. Love requires strength. You can't be weak and have love. You got to be strong to love. You can't be a coward and have love. Your cowardice will make your life more important than your brothers or your sisters' lives. And when Dylan Roof came into that church, he found people that did not have love for each other. He found people that didn't have love. If they had love, they would have fought Dylan Roof because of the love they had for each other. Instead, they all were filled with Christianity. They were filled. Christianity makes you deathly afraid and terrified. It makes you cower. It makes you give your love to the oppressor. You think he's Jesus. You think he's God. You think he's wonderful and holy. They probably thought that Jesus walked into that church. But in here, we learn that the white man is the devil that the Bible speaks of. And that's a very important lesson that your sons and daughters need to learn. It is a life and death lesson. And because their lives have been taught to love the devil that the Bible speaks of, they thought Jesus had walked into the church and no one fought him. They all begged him. You understand? They begged for his life. They prayed for him because they were taught to love the oppressor. They weren't taught that the oppressor is their enemy and that if he has the opportunity, he will take your life. They weren't taught to look at Karen as a threat. They weren't taught to look at that devil who shot up the buffalo. They weren't taught to look at him as a threat. That brother dancing on the subway train was in distress. You understand? He wasn't taught to see the white boy sitting on the train as a threat that would strangle him to death and choke him out. He needs to be in a city and a town that is only filled with his people so that he can be relieved from the oppression on him. But instead, he was in the world that is not filled with his people who care about him, who are building a society to relieve the burdens on him and his people. He was in the world. And in the world, he did not have protection. He didn't have the Spirit of the Lord to cover him. And that brother was hunted by our oppressors. That's a very important thing. A part of love is preparing you for the real world. And blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans are not educated on the real world, the world where everyone is on a team. That fight in Alabama was a very important lesson that I hope blacks and Hispanics paid very close attention to. You understand? That lesson, lines were drawn. And it wasn't a new line that was drawn. It was a line that black people need to wake up and see. People joined to attack that black man who was at his job. He did not attack anybody. The people, the oppressors, came to kill him. They didn't come to fight him. And it wasn't just men, it was men and women, young and old. They didn't come to subdue him. They didn't come to fight him. They didn't come to disagree with him. They went there because they were trying to unalive that brother. They were beating him, hitting him, stomping him, even after he was already down and being choked, just like those devils in New York did to Daniel Penny. You understand? I believe that was the brother's name that they killed on the train, where three of them held him down as one of them choked him to death. That is what they were doing to that brother. You cannot take your uniform off, whether you're light skinned with curly hair, whether you're dark skinned, you're short, you're fat, you're skinny, big lips, small lips. If your father is black, Hispanic, or Native American, you are on a team. You cannot join another team. That's confusion. You will never be one of them. You can work for them. You can serve them. You can get resources for your people, just like they gather resources for their people. You can all use the same resources. You can be in the same city. You can get the same resources, but you are born on a team. And the sooner blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans learn that God put you on a team when he put you inside of your mother, you understand? When he put you inside of your mother, after your father ejaculated into your mother, he put his seed into her, you were already born on a team. And you need to learn this. And your children need to learn this. If you don't teach your black and Hispanic sons, they could go and kill other members of their own team. That's what's happening in Portsmouth. That's what's going on in Richmond. That's what's happening in Norfolk. That's what's going on in Lynchburg. That's what's happening in Roanoke. That's what's going on in South Boston, in Harrisburg. That's what's happening in Woodbridge, in Alexandria, in Tyson's Corner. That's what's going on. You'd better teach your sons and daughters what's actually in the Bible. You understand? These are lessons that the Lord wanted, that he wanted to make sure that his disciples knew this, even though he was about to die. He wanted to make sure that they knew it so that they could teach the other brothers and sisters that would come into the truth by their works. You understand? So this is what Christ was talking about. All right, didn't get much to our topic, where we covered a good amount. We might pick that up next week. You understand? So we up over the time. Most High in Christ. All right. All right, Akim, remember to pay your tithes. All right, go right to ISUPK.com. We're going to end it there. Be sure to pay your tithes. ISUPK.com. 10% of every penny of any increase the Most High gives to you. You can go right, pay it right from the site. You can even set up your own account. Check out all the videos right here. No cowards, ISUPK Virginia, ISUPK Richmond. You're watching on Instagram. You're watching on Twitter, TikTok, Twitch, Facebook. You understand? Make sure, like, share, and subscribe. Be here. Tune in for our class, the Hebrew language class, every Friday, which is going to be the next class, the Lashawan Kodash class, from 7 to 9 on the same channel. With that, To the brothers, Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shah Barakatham. To the sisters, Yahweh Shamar Alathan, Hashem Yahweh Shah. With that, class dismissed.